let's dive in. Today we're exploring something super interesting. Um, Protein.
Protein.
Yeah. But not just any protein. We're talking about plant-based protein in Indian food.
Ah,
So
okay.
I found this article called 7 Nutritious Indian Vegetarian Food to Boost Your Protein Intake. And I was blown away by, well, just how much protein you can get from vegetarian Indian food.
Right.
But there's this other thing that really caught my eye. It said 70% of Indians eat meat,
Hmm.
which means there's this whole other side to Indian cuisine focused on plant-based protein.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, protein is essential for everyone,
Totally.
not just athletes or bodybuilders, everyone.
Okay, so this deep dive isn't about just listing off protein-rich foods.
No.
It's about understanding how easy it is to get protein from these unexpected sources.
Exactly, and how delicious those sources can be.
The article starts by saying vegetarians don't need supplements for protein.
Right, that's a myth?
Is that true?
Absolutely. Plant-based protein can be totally sufficient. And Indian cuisine, prime example. It's all about combining the right foods.
Combining.
Yes, so animal protein has all 9 essential amino acids.
Right, the ones our body can't make on its own.
Exactly. Some plant proteins might be missing 1 or 2,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
by combining different plant proteins, you get a complete protein profile.
So lentils and rice.
Perfect example. That combo is a classic in Indian cuisine.
Oh, yeah. And the article mentions this dish called rajma tawal, kidney beans and rice.
Ah, a favorite. So simple, so good.
Seriously, it's like comfort food. I love it.
And kidney beans pack about 7.5 grams of protein per half cup.
Wow.
Pretty similar to chicken or fish.
Speaking of staples, what about chickpeas?
Chickpeas.
Yeah.
Another powerhouse.
I'm a hummus addict, but I'm guessing there are other ways to use them.
Oh, tons. You can roast them, add them to curries, salads, the list goes on.
The article does mention being careful with portion sizes, though.
Right, because of the fiber content.
Mm-hmm.
Too much at once, and, well, you might get some bloating.
Oh, right.
Start slow, and make sure to soak and cook them properly.
Okay, good tip. Now, on to something that sometimes gets a bad rap. Soy.
Ah, soy. Such a great source of protein.
Really?
It has all 9 essential amino acids, which makes it a complete protein.
I always thought it was just processed stuff.
Not at all. Think tofu, tempeh, edamame.
Oh, yeah, and soy milk. That's a dairy alternative a lot of people use.
Exactly.
Speaking of dairy, the article talks about its role as a protein source in Indian cuisine.
Yeah, and yogurt really stands out. Super digestible because of the fermentation process.
And in Indian cuisine, yogurt's used in everything.
Sweet and savory dishes, you name it.
That makes me think about how important dairy is in Indian culture, especially cow's milk.
It's true. Dairy is seen as very pure, very nourishing. It plays a big part in religious and cultural practices, too.
So that reverence for dairy definitely explains why it's such a big part of vegetarian meals.
Absolutely. You see that in dishes like paneer, a fresh cheese. Adds a ton of protein to any meal.
Okay, on to lentils. Those are basically synonymous with Indian cooking.
Right. You can't have an Indian meal without some kind of dal.
I know, it's like dal is life over there.
Pretty much. And for good reason. Lentils have around 9 grams of protein per half cup, plus a ton of fiber and essential minerals.
There are so many different kinds of lentils, too.
Oh, yeah. Red, green, black, each one has its own flavor and texture.
Red lentils are great for soups.
Yeah, they cook up super fast.
And black lentils have that, earthy flavor.
Perfect for a heartier dish.
Okay, now for something that really surprised me in the article, green peas as a good protein source.
Interesting, right?
I always thought of them as a side dish.
Well, fun fact, peas are actually legumes, not vegetables.
Whoa. Weird.
Same family as beans and lentils, which is where that protein content comes from.
So it's the legume family that's adding all this protein.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about seeds and nuts. They're in the mix, too.
Oh, yeah. I love adding chia seeds to my smoothies.
Good choice. They're tiny but mighty.
What other seeds and nuts should I be on the lookout for?
Flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, all great options.
And for nuts.
Almonds, cashews, and walnuts are your best bets. Good source of protein, healthy fats, and fiber.
This is making me rethink my snacking habits. I need more of these in my life.
And remember, those healthy fats are important for your overall health.
So it's not just about protein, it's about a whole balanced approach.
Exactly. And Indian vegetarian cuisine showcases that perfectly. using a mix of plant-based ingredients to create meals that are delicious and good for you.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm really starting to see how much Indian vegetarian cuisine has to offer.
It's a whole world of flavor and nutrition.
Well, hold on to your hats, listeners, because we're just scratching the surface here. We'll be back in part 2 to delve even deeper into this protein-packed world.
Welcome back to our protein journey. I'm still processing everything we talked about last time, like combining plant proteins to make them complete. It's pretty amazing how Indian vegetarian cuisine does that so seamlessly.
Totally. But the article did mention one thing that kind of worried me about potential deficiencies.
Ah, yeah. That's important to address. While plant-based diets are generally very healthy, there are a few nutrients that might be harder to get.
Like what?
Well, the article specifically mentioned vitamin B12.
Right. That's mostly found in animal products.
Exactly. So for vegetarians, it's crucial to be aware of that.
So how do they make sure they're getting enough?
Fortunately, there are a lot of good options. Lots of foods are fortified with B12 these days.
Oh, like plant-based milk?
Yep. Cereals, nutritional yeast, stuff like that.
Makes sense. And supplements are always an option, too.
Right, exactly. It's just about being informed and making those choices.
Okay, so we've talked about specific ingredients, but how does Indian cuisine approach protein, like overall?
Well, one thing that's really interesting is how they combine different protein sources within meals. It's rare to see a dish with just one type of lentil or bean. It's all about layering flavors and textures while making sure you get all those amino acids.
So it's not just about eating a lot of one thing, it's about balance and variety.
Precisely. And this is where Indian cooking really shines. It's like an art form, blending everything together. Remember how we talked about dal?
Oh yeah, how could I forget? Dal is life.
Haha, right. But seriously, dal is a perfect example of how Indian cuisine packs in the protein without relying on meat. And it's not just delicious, it's also incredibly good for you.
Packed with fiber and all those minerals, too.
Absolutely. And don't even get me started on all the different types of dal out there.
Oh yeah, each region has its own spin on it.
You've got creamy yellow dals, spicy red lentil dal, hearty black lentil dal.
It's mind-blowing how diverse Indian cuisine is.
It really is. You could explore a whole world of flavors and culinary traditions.
And speaking of exploring, the article mentioned a dish called palak paneer.
Ah, yes. A classic North Indian dish.
It's that spinach and cheese curry, right?
Exactly. And it's a prime example of how they combine protein sources. Spinach for vitamins and minerals, paneer for that creamy texture, and a good dose of protein.
How much protein are we talking?
About 18-20 grams per 100 grams of paneer.
Wow, that's impressive. So it's not just legumes and lentils. Dairy plays a big part too.
Absolutely. And paneer is incredibly versatile. You can grill it, fry it, add it to curries, even use it in desserts.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot here. From combining protein sources to regional specialties, what are some key takeaways for listeners who want to try this out?
Well, first things first. Remember that plant-based protein is complete, you know? You don't need meat or supplements to get what you need.
Right, that's important.
Second, don't be afraid to embrace variety. Indian cuisine is a goldmine of protein-rich ingredients.
Lentils, chickpeas, soy, dairy, it's all there.
And remember to mix and match those protein sources to make sure you're getting all the essential amino acids.
Good point. And finally,
Have fun with it. Experiment in the kitchen. Don't be afraid to try new things.
that's what cooking is all about. Okay, now the article mentioned this platform called Quickly.
Ah, yes. It's an online platform for Indian groceries and food delivery. It's a pretty cool option, especially if you don't have an Indian grocery store nearby.
That's good to know. But even if you don't have Quickly, I'm sure most of these ingredients can be found in regular grocery stores, right?
Absolutely. You don't need anything fancy to enjoy delicious Indian vegetarian food.
So whether you're a vegetarian or just trying to eat more plant-based, Indian cuisine is a great place to start.
It really shows you how to eat healthy and delicious without being limited.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I need to up my Indian food game. Maybe I'll finally try making palak paneer.
Go for it. And remember, it's all about making it your own.
I love that. Well, listeners, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll wrap things up and leave you with some final food for thought.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. You know, going through this article and talking about all this, one thing that really stood out was how connected Indian cuisine is to, well, culture. Oh, absolutely. The article definitely highlights that. Food isn't just about fuel.
Right. It's about history, tradition, community. Like, think about dal.
Ah,
It's more than just lentils, you know?
exactly. It's like a symbol of home, comfort.
And we were talking about dairy earlier.
Yeah.
That has a whole other layer of meaning in Indian culture, religious practices too.
Right. It's seen as sacred, pure. So its role in vegetarian diets goes way beyond just nutrition.
Makes you realize how food choices are tied to so much more than just what's good for you.
It's a fascinating perspective. Like, how does culture influence what we eat, you know?
Totally. And speaking of perspectives, this deep dive has completely changed how I see plant-based food.
Oh, yeah.
I used to think vegetarian meals were kind of limited,
Right.
but Indian cuisine proves that's so wrong.
It's a great example of how you can eat delicious, satisfying, protein-packed meals without any meat.
And that's becoming even more important these days.
With all the focus on sustainability and ethical eating.
Exactly. So as we wrap up, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I'd say approach food with an open mind.
Open mind.
Yeah. Be curious, be adventurous, try new things.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone.
I love that. Let your taste buds lead the way.
Exactly. You never know what you might discover, both in terms of taste and, well, the stories behind the food.
Well said. Big thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into protein and Indian vegetarian cuisine.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you learned something new, got some inspiration for your next meal, and maybe even started thinking about protein in a whole new way. Until next time, happy eating, everyone.